it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today, so thanks for watching. Man, I sure do appreciate it. 2 best case, worst case scenario videos coming up for you guys today, and I'm gonna take a suggestion that I got from a few people yesterday. I'm gonna do 2 teams again today, but I'm gonna split it into 2 videos. So I'll upload one, and then the second one will be uploaded shortly after that. This will make the videos shorter to watch for you guys, and it'll enable you to just watch one or the other if that's what you want to do. So coming up today is going to be Vandy, and then I'm going to do Kentucky. So if you clicked on this and it's the Vandy video, the Kentucky video will be uploaded right after this. And if you clicked on this because it's the Kentucky video and you're curious about my thoughts on Vandy, you can click back one video. It was uploaded just a few minutes ago. All right, let's talk about Kentucky. All right, Kentucky Wildcats 2019 best case, worst case, regular season scenario. To those of you that wonder why I take the time to do these videos, this is a perfect example right here. Besides the fact that I just love college football and I could literally talk about college football all day, every day, 365 days a year, there's a lot of things I was wrong about Kentucky for the 2019 season. And listen, I'm not the world's smartest sports fan. I'm no expert or anything. I'm a fan, no different than you guys watching. That's it. But doing these videos forces me to at least learn something about these teams that I'm doing. And Kentucky looks like a way better team in 2019 than what I have been giving them credit for over the last couple of months. Do I think they can get back to the 10 wins and finish in second in the East like they did last year? Maybe. Now, obviously, not very many people would put their money on that. Florida trajectory headed that way, according to most people. Georgia's still loaded, but well, let's just start like we do with the rest of these videos. All right, 2018, like I mentioned, 10-3, first 10-win season since 1977. 5-3 in the SEC. Your losses were at Texas A&M, a close one, and then home against Georgia where you got blown out. And really, Georgia beat you twice last year because you turned around the very next week after Georgia just road graded you, demoralized you, beat you up physically and mentally, and emotionally too. You turned around the next week and got blown out at Tennessee, a team that you were miles better than last year. You had no business losing that game at Tennessee. You easily could have finished this season 11-2 instead of 10-3, but Georgia beat you twice, and we see that sometimes in college football. Biggest win, Florida, right? Finally, Kentucky gets over the Florida hump, first time in 31 years, whatever it was. Kentucky really had outplayed Florida in 2016 and 2017, but lost. In 2016, it was sort of a controversial play clock violation or something, wasn't it, right? Florida got down to the end zone. A lot of people think the play clock ran out before Florida snapped. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You lost. Following year, you should have beat them again. That was in Kentucky. This was 2017. You should have beat them again. You dominated the entire game. You were a way better team. Twice in that game, you send only 10 men out on the field on defense. And not only that, you completely leave a wide receiver uncovered, and they score the touchdown to beat you. It was just the most head-scratching thing I've ever seen, and I went on this whole rant about how Mark Stoops is the worst coach in America. Caught a lot of slack for that last year when he won 10 games, though. But anyway, last year was 2018, not 2017. In 2017, he was the worst coach. So, sorry. But anyway, you get over that hump, and then, of course, you beat Penn State, a good team out of a really good division in the Big Ten. You beat them in the Citrus Bowl. So, by any measure, by any calculation, however you want to look at it, Kentucky had one of their all-time great seasons last year, 10-3. Now, it didn't end the way they wanted, really. It did with a bowl win, but in terms of the SEC, heading into that Georgia game, Kentucky and their fans, rightfully so, thought they had a shot to win the SEC East and take the trip to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. It didn't work out. Georgia rolled over them, but a great season for Kentucky. All right, so Mark Stoops gets you 10 wins for the first time since 1977. Of course, he's back. Listen to this. 2013, Mark Stoops' first year, 2 wins. Fast forward 5 seasons later to 2018, second in the East, 10-3. Tennessee, what are you doing? What are you doing? How many coaches has Tennessee had since 2013? And they can't get 10 wins. Tennessee hasn't had a 10-win season in 12 years. Anyway, go down that road. Why? What's the point? They like it when you talk about Tennessee, though. But the Voltards cry, though. Yeah, I know that, but it's April. VPA. Hashtag VPA. Good morning, and two. Where was I? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, somewhere. Okay. Oh, Josh Allen, Benny Snell, gone. 2 all-time greats for Kentucky. Benny Snell, probably the best player you've had at Kentucky in the last 40 years on offense. Josh Allen, probably the best player you've had at Kentucky on defense in the last 40 years. They're both gone. And I'm just going to tell you right now, you're not replacing either one of those guys. You're just not. Now, that doesn't mean that Kentucky's defense is going to be terrible. And it doesn't mean that Kentucky is going to have no ground game this year or anything like that. But there's no other Benny Snell on that roster. And there's no other Josh Allen on that roster. There's not. I don't want to hear that in the comments section. There ain't very many teams in all of college football that can replace, especially Josh Allen. There are not very many teams in college football that can replace a Josh Allen. There's not. Georgia couldn't. Georgia can't. We lost Leonard Floyd 3-4 years ago. We've yet to replace him, okay? Lorenzo Carter had some potential. We never lived up to it, and we've had nothing on the outside in terms of pass rush for the last 2 seasons. So, no, you're not replacing Josh Allen. Now, you can come up with some other type of defensive schemes or whatever, however you want to do, moving people around and different blitzes, and maybe you end up equaling the same number of tackles for loss or sacks and stuff like that. You're not replacing Josh Allen. Just know that and accept it, okay? You're just not. Now you do, Asim, I want to talk about this guy, Asim Rose. Now, I think he was your 3rd leading rusher last year, so, and I'll admit, I didn't watch every Kentucky game, so I don't know if this is a situation where this guy came in garbage time and racked up some yards against beat-up defenses or what, but this guy averaged 6.2 yards per carry. 6.2. He'll get a lot of playing time this year. If he can get anywhere close to that over the course of a season, you got yourself a serviceable running back there. And true freshman, and Georgia fans probably will recognize this name, Travis Tisdale. He's from Valdosta, Georgia, Lowndes High School down there. The dude ran for 2,000 yards last year. And listen, you say whatever you want about the recruiting services and the rankings and blah, blah, and this and that don't matter. You run for 2,000 yards at Lowndes, you're doing something. They play the big boys down there. That is big-time high school football down there, okay? Georgia is one of the best states in America in terms of high school football talent, and it don't get much better than that classification and region and division that the Valdosta area and Lowndes in particular is in. So this guy has got some serious talent, and there's no way Kentucky keeps him off the field this year. I don't see it. I think this guy will get plenty of chances this year, this Tisdale. You get Terry Wilson back at the quarterback position. This is a blessing and a curse. This guy comes in from a junior college nickname, Touchdown Terry. Now, I changed his nickname last year to Turnover Terry. Why? Up until like week 9 or 10, he had more turnovers and interceptions than he did passing touchdowns. Now, he corrected that a little bit by the time the season ended. He finished with 11 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. This is something else that surprised me when I looked into it today. And the Terry Wilson situation goes a long way to explaining why I went from being about here on Kentucky this year to being a little bit higher. He completed 67% of his passes. 67. That's elite. That's elite. Now, he doesn't have a ton of attempts, and I get that. He only threw for 1,800 yards, and I get that. 67% is elite. People talk about Jake Fromm being whatever you think he is or whatever. Doesn't make mistakes. That's a Jake Fromm completion percentage, okay? That's a Tua completion percentage. That's a Trevor Lawrence completion percentage. I'm not saying that Terry Wilson is as good as those guys. I'm just saying if you asked a random college football fan who watches a lot of college football but maybe doesn't memorize stats, like I don't memorize stats, if you asked them, what do you think Terry Wilson's completion percentage was last year? I bet you most people would have guessed somewhere around 50%. 67% is really, really good. 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 1,800 yards through the air. But this is what you get from Terry Wilson that you don't get from one of those other 3 quarterbacks that I named. 550 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. You can't underestimate that. How many extra first downs over the course of a season is Terry Wilson giving you with 550 yards rushing? Because you know a lot of that rushing yards comes on third down. That's extending drives. And I think that's going to be even more important this year with the loss of Benny Snell. If Terry Wilson can improve on his decision-making, cut down on the interceptions, I think it's possible Kentucky's offense ends up being better this year than it was last year. Now, the wide receiver position at Kentucky is sort of a mixed bag. You lose 5 of your top 7 wide receivers, which is never good. Georgia's in a similar boat. But you return the best of the bunch. What's this guy's name? Bowden Jr., 750 yards and 5 touchdowns. And you get him back, okay? So he caught half of Terry Wilson's touchdown passes last year, almost, right? He had 11 touchdown passes. This Jamoke caught 5 of them. So you got you a good wide receiver. You have a quarterback that played okay as a first-year starter last year, and you have to expect him to get better this year. I think you have talent at the running back position, even if it's not Benny Snell talent. But what about the defense and the loss of Josh Allen? Your top 5 defensive backs are gone. That's not good. That's not good. You got 9 early enrollees. You better hope some of those guys can step up. You're recruiting 12th in the SEC last year. So again, not the type of team that can just reload a Benny Snell or a Josh Allen, okay? You signed 3 4-stars. 3. The rest were 3 4-stars. The rest were 3 stars. I gave you a comparison in the Vandy video with Georgia. I'll give you a comparison here to Florida. Florida signed 17 4-stars, okay? You signed 3. The talent gap is huge. Now, talent gaps can be overcome in certain situations, right? You can outcoach a more talented team. You can have a player or 2 on your team that are such difference makers, they take a game over. Quarterbacks can do that. Tim Tebow's, Cam Newton's, Trevor Lawrence, these people, right? So that's what Kentucky's going to have to bank on. Kentucky's going to have to bank on the fact that Terry Wilson takes a huge step forward because roster to roster, they're not going to be able to compete with the Georgias, the Floridas, really anyone in the SEC. They're 12th, like I said, in recruiting. So anyway, let's throw the schedule up on the screen. We'll go through it. You guys know the routine by now. I'm going to try to come up with a best case, worst case scenario for Kentucky's 2019 regular season. It's not my goal here to pick exactly which games they'll lose. That comes later in the summer towards the start of the season. We do that sort of pretty much the entire month of July and the first couple of weeks of August. I'll go back through all these teams that I've done now, plus a bunch more, and I'll give you an exact record for those teams and tell you which teams I think they lose to. Today, we're just trying to figure out, okay, if everything goes right, what's the most amount of games they could win? The wheels fall off, how bad could it get? So that's what we're going to do. All right, you open up with a winnable game at home, 2 winnable games at home, Toledo and Eastern Michigan at home, leading into your first SEC game of the year, also at home, Florida. Huge game. Huge game early in the season for the SEC. This game is huge for a lot of reasons. I expect Kentucky to be 2-0 heading into this game. Florida will most likely be 2-0, although they have a tougher opening stretch of games than Kentucky does. Florida, of course, playing Miami week 1. Florida, a big favorite in that one, though, for obvious reasons. But most likely, both teams are going to be undefeated heading into this game. You have to, you get them at home after beating them on the road in Gainesville last year. An embarrassing loss. Again, this is not a trash talk video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time trashing Florida here. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It was an embarrassing loss. You don't want to be the coach at Florida who loses to Kentucky for the first time in 31 years, and you definitely don't want it to happen in your first season there. Now, Florida and Dan Mullen ended up having a good year, about the same type of year Kentucky had. Okay, so I'm not here to say that Dan Mullen's not any good or Florida's terrible or anything like that, but that was a bad loss for Florida. They're going to be looking to return the favor to you this year. They're not going to sleep on you this year. They do not want to get embarrassed 2 years in a row. If Dan Mullen were to start 0-2 in his first 2 years at Florida against Kentucky, I seriously doubt he ever overcomes that. and it could be the beginning of the end for him. I mean, that's how bad it is to be a Florida coach and lose to Kentucky. So Florida is going to give you everything they got in this game here, and that's going to be a tough game for Kentucky to win. But I think it's possible. A lot of it depends on Terry Wilson and how fast you can get that defense up to speed with a whole lot of new players. Couple of road games after that. Neither one of these are going to be easy either. On the road at Mississippi State. Mississippi State had the #1 defense in the SEC last year. Now, they lost a lot of that talent to the NFL, but Mississippi State's going to have a good defensive team. Again, quarterback's going to be their issue over there. Maybe I'll do a Mississippi State video here in a couple of days and talk more about that. But that's not easy. You got to play them there with that stupid-ass cowbell. Then you go on the... Listen, there's not two worst places in America. You go to the two worst places in the SEC to play football, and you got to go there 2 weeks in a row. You got to go to Mississippi State and listen to them damn cowbells for no reason. Then you got to turn around the very next week and go to South Carolina and listen to that stupid-ass rooster crow that they play. You go to they do that rooster... They'll do that rooster crow a million times a game. You get a first down... the defense stops the other team from getting a first down. First down and you get positive yards and Carolina has the ball. Second down and you almost get the first down. The crowd gets loud. The other team has the ball. The crowd is going nuts. The quarterback is up to snap the ball. The crowd is going crazy. The quarterback can't hear. He's looking around. He backs up and calls a timeout. It's the most irritating, aggravating two places on planet Earth to play a college football game, and you got to play them there in back-to-back weeks. Good luck and God bless. I don't know what else to tell you. You do have a bye week after that to rest your ears, though, which is good. And you get a scrimmage game the next week against Arkansas, one of the worst teams in America. Bad news then, though. On the road at UGA, another road grade coming there probably. Just being real, you got to play them at Georgia. This is a best case, worst case deal, right? Georgia's going to be a big favorite. You're not likely to win that game. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You come back home, play Missouri. A lot of question marks with Mizzou. Kelly Bryant, what's he going to do? What kind of offense are they going to run? Pro-style offense under Drew Lock. He's a typical pro-style drop-back pocket passer. That ain't what Kelly Bryant is. Now, it's possible Kelly Bryant wants to be that to help his NFL chances. And if that's the case, Mizzou will keep the same offense they had under Drew Lock and just Kelly Bryant be running it. Or they could change it around a little. We really don't know what we're going to get with Mizzou this year. But then you got another bye week. Come out of that, play Tennessee. Must-win game. You got to win this game. Embarrassing loss last year for Kentucky. Probably the second most embarrassing, probably the third most embarrassing loss of the year last year. Most embarrassing loss of the year in the SEC last year. Auburn losing to Tennessee. Second most embarrassing loss in the SEC last year. Florida losing to Kentucky. Third most embarrassing loss in the SEC last year. Kentucky losing to Tennessee. Of course, you played them the week after Georgia last year. This year, you get a bye before this game. So that's great news. You got to you got to beat Tennessee, okay? They're rebuilding since the dawn of man. You have to win that game, okay? To come out of that, you go on the road at Vandy, a game you'll be favored in. You got to win that one. And then you finish up with a couple of non-con games, UT Martin, and then your annual in-state rivalry game against Louisville, one of the worst teams in America last year, whole new coaching staff there. One would assume at this point you would be a pretty good favorite to win that game. So, okay, if everything goes right here, and again, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, just off the top of my head, what do you think about Kentucky? I would have said, well, they won 10 games last year, but they had Benny Snell and Josh Allen. They're not getting nowhere near that. I have changed my mind. I really think it's possible. Remember, this is best case scenario. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. I think you can go 10-2. I honestly mean that. No troll. I think if everything goes right and you win a game that you're not supposed to, whether that's Florida, Georgia, I mean, who else? Who are you going to be underdogs to? You'll be favored against Toledo. You'll be favored against Eastern Michigan. Mississippi State, they may be a favorite. South Carolina, I think you're better than South Carolina. South Carolina hadn't beat you in 5 years. You'll be favored over Arkansas. I think you'll probably be favored over Mizzou. I think you'll be favored over Tennessee, favored over Vandy, favored over UT Martin, favored over Louisville. You could be a favorite in 10 of these games. I think it's possible you go 10-2. Now, if things go bad, if this defense is not able to get anywhere close to what it was last year, if Terry Wilson doesn't become better at protecting the ball, less turnovers, that sort of thing, if the running backs end up not being as capable as I think they can be, I think it's possible you lose to Florida, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. At 7-5, worst case scenario. Listen, it wasn't that long ago Kentucky was winning 2 or 3 games. We just talked about it, 2013. So even if you went 7-5, this is what you want, okay? All programs have down years. Even Alabama. It may take them a while to have one, but everybody has a down year every once in a while. Georgia in 2016 had a down year. But that down year was 8-5. If you can get to the point at Kentucky where your down years are 7-5, you win a bowl game, you could be 8-5, that's not the worst thing in the world. That is not the worst thing in the world. And I honestly do not see Kentucky doing any worse this year than 7-5. And I think it's possible with the best case that they go 10-2. All right, I'm breathing heavy. I must have got a little worked up in that video for no particular reason at all, too. Anyway, appreciate you watching. Live show tonight at 10 o'clock. Whee! Call up and troll me. A bunch of half a retards. What?